Good afternoon, everybody, or good morning, depending where you're coming in from. For those of you that have already joined us, we'll get started in a minute or two. Okay, so I think we're ready to get started now. Yeah, I expected more people, a few more people to trickle in. And just for anyone wondering, we are recording the presentation and we will be distributing the slides afterwards. So you'll get all the material that we're talking about at the end of the presentation. Okay, great. So welcome, everyone. This is our next webinar in our Webinterpret talk series called EPR Made Easy. My name is Bronwyn. I'm a marketing specialist here at Webinterpret and the moderator for today's event, which is being ran with Ecosystent. So just a quick introduction about Webinterpret for those who aren't familiar with us. We help brands and retailers conquer new international markets on online marketplaces, including eBay, who we currently have a silver partnership with. It's been 15 years of enabling cross-border trade for marketplace sellers now. So as you can imagine, we're really passionate about the international selling journey, and that includes compliancy with regulations like EPR. And I just want to emphasize that environmental awareness and its impact on e-commerce policy is not just a one-time instance that's happening right now. Actually, some of you will be aware that Germany introduced the same policy last year. So I want to thank everyone who's joining us today and interested in learning about EPR, especially as more countries are likely to follow France's lead down the road. So our main hosts for today are Claudia Kusel, who is the team leader and senior sales executive at Webinterpret for the US market, and Katarina Erwig, sustainability and EPR consultant at Ecosystent. And Ecosystent, you're going to hear more about them later on in the presentation. They are a tech startup and consulting agency in Berlin that has been helping thousands of e-commerce businesses fulfill their legal recycling obligations across Europe since 2020. Yeah, and on behalf of Webinterpret, we're just really excited to be delivering this webinar together with Ecosystent. They are the driving force behind making EPR compliancy accessible and easy. So let's get right into it. The agenda for today, Claudia is going to be introducing what EPR is, what needs to be done, and the benefits of the policy. Then Katarina is going to discuss the registration process and what to do after you register. At the end, we are going to be answering all your questions. So you can enter them in the Zoom chat. There's also a Q&A feature at the bottom. Do this throughout the presentation and we will get to them at the end. And again, don't worry if you miss anything because we'll send you the presentation recording and the slideshow after the webinar. So yeah, I'm going to be handing it off to you, Claudia.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Bronwyn, and welcome everyone. Hello, my name is Claudia. If you've attended any of our US webinars in the past, I'm pretty sure you've heard my voice or seen my face, so welcome again. So today we will be touching upon, the EPR policy, which has been a hot topic in the e-commerce world for the past few months. I will first, lightly explain what the policy actually entails, what it is all about, and why is it actually beneficial to become compliant with it. Then I will hand over the stage over to Katerina, our guest. And now let's just dive in. So extended producer responsibility is an environmental policy that makes producers responsible for the entire life cycle of the production and the products that they introduce on the market from their design until the end of life, meaning including waste collection and recycling. EPR policy is a policy resulting from the EU Packaging Waste Directive covering packaging design and waste management. It is created basically to govern the recycling of packaging waste in the EU member states and to regulate recycling quotas from different types of materials in response to the growing problem of excessive waste worldwide. So this means for sellers such as yourself that producers and sellers introducing packaging to the French market are made responsible currently for the recycling of packaging of the exports that they bring into that specific market. So unfortunately, the governments of the European Union countries have not yet managed to create a unified recycling scheme for the whole European single market. And implementation of the directive is a little bit different across the EU member states and across different categories of goods. This is why probably a lot of you had so many questions as to how to actually become compliant with it. Each country has, been introducing this directive at different times, and we first saw it with Germany. Now we see it with France. Probably more countries will come to follow. So currently, the French government decided to put the responsibility for supporting the EPR law execution on marketplaces, including eBay, by making them legally obligated to confirm that their merchants comply with the EPR regulation. As a result, sellers such as yourselves will need to provide their compliance IDs to the marketplace itself to keep selling into those countries. And in turn, those marketplaces are then obliged to make this part of their platform policy. So any of you that have, been receiving any information from both eBay and ourselves about this matter, you can now see that this is an eBay policy and a French policy, and that eBay unfortunately needs to enforce it on their platform in order to, comply with these new international trade changes. So, of course, as our Webinterpret seller, you can still use our solution and grow your international business into other countries without actually becoming compliant. But I will tell you this, the benefits coming from compliance far outweigh the disadvantages. So keep in mind that staying up to date with, in general, international regulations will protect your business for any future changes. It will also provide you with opportunities for future growth. So keep in mind that by becoming compliant with this new EPR law, you can remain or become present in one of the top EU markets, which France is. So look at this statistics, for example. eBay France alone has 10 million of active visitors a month, which does make it a very, very significant enough number to entice sellers such as yourself to put in that a little bit of extra effort to maintain your presence on that particular market. And of course, as Bronwyn mentioned in the beginning, the trend of becoming more environmentally aware is not something that will go away. More likely will get strengthened, and more likely more nations will follow in France's footsteps. So now let's take a look at France as a country itself, and why is it such a big opportunity for marketplace sellers such as yourselves? So first of all, France is the 6th biggest e-commerce market worldwide and 3rd in Europe after UK and Germany. In 2022, online sales increased in France by 13.8% year over year, reaching almost 147 billion euros in revenue. In total, there are nearly 42 million French consumers purchasing goods and services online. And currently, online buyers have confirmed a trend that they are increasingly favoring eco-responsibility. A company's CRS policy is now a concern for 31% of online buyers. That's 1/3 of basically the online presence that currently wants laws like EPR to be in place. So not only is this, social responsibility what matters here, but it's also the environmental aspect that I just mentioned. For many buyers, it is important for them that they buy products from businesses that care about the environment. Sustainability has become a critical factor in the consumer decision-making process, making it a very, very essential component for everyday businesses and chain supply models. According to some research for IBM and National Retail Federation, 81% of consumers stated that sustainability matters to them, and 57% reported that they are prepared to modify their purchasing behaviors to decrease the negative impact on the environment. Now look at these numbers and look again and think about it. Does it make sense not to comply with such laws? And on another note, there was actually an article published in the Environmental Science and Technology Journal that investigated that in Germany between 1991 and 1998, per capita consumption of packaging was reduced by 13.4% because of the EPR policy adoption internally within the country. So we would really strongly encourage you to think about and look at EPR as our joint effort to protect the environment and promote sustainability worldwide. I completely understand that many sellers will, of course, get discouraged by the bureaucracy connected with the compliance, as it does require some effort on your end. Nevertheless, I can reassure you that those who do deal with this temporary hassle will benefit from fewer competitors, as they will be still present selling on that market in comparison to their contenders who will decide to drop off. By taking the time to understand and apply the policy, you can set up your online business for success in a constantly evolving market and a constantly evolving world, because as mentioned, most likely other countries will follow in France's and Germany's footsteps. And now a piece of good news for our eBay sellers out there. Currently, marketplaces, including eBay, have negotiated with the French government a bit of a simplification to the registration process for compliance within their platform itself. And soon they will be giving their sellers the ability to simply provide a registration code on account level rather than on item level as it was originally designed. So any of you that went through that process knew how complicated it was. So this simplification will definitely make it easier for you to take that step towards a yes in terms of compliance. And on that note, let's now take a look at what is required to complete the registration process and what documentation you need to prepare. Katerina, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Claudia. And warm welcome from me as well. My name is Katerina Havik. I work for Ecosystem. I'm an EPR compliance consultant. I am here today to tell you how and where to register in France and how to become compliant in France. I've prepared a little agenda so you know what I'm going to be talking about, so you know when to zoom in and out of this presentation. If you could go to the next slide, Claudia. Thank you. A little bit about us, about Ecosystem, who we are, why we're here today, then a little bit about our service, how we can help you, and then the part that probably most of you are here for is how to actually register in France, what to prepare, what to expect, costs, all the administrative things you need to come prepared with, anything else that's related to it. And then lastly, some more about our services and also the thing you might have heard about the TRIME and the labeling requirement in France. But yeah, more about that later. So let's start off with Ecosystem. We're a Berlin-based startup. We were funded 3 years ago with the idea to help, especially e-commerce online sellers, with fulfilling their EPR compliance, which is not a new thing. It's based on an EU directive that needs to be implemented by all EU states now and put into national law, requiring anyone who puts packaging or products on those markets take responsibility for this packaging and those products. And as you've heard prior, now some countries have put marketplaces in the responsibility to ensure that sellers are actually registered. So yeah, we are the go-to point for sustainable e-commerce. We are EPR experts, and we have designed a digital compliance consultant to help e-commerce and online sellers. A little bit about our service. We are, I think we skip the next slide. Thank you. We help you fulfill your recycling obligations in the whole of the European Union, those 27 member states, as well as Norway, the UK, and Switzerland. We can do that and help you with the waste streams you can see on the screen with packaging, which affects probably every one of you, then batteries, electronics, textiles, furniture, and mattresses, as well as toys and DIY things. So yeah, the way that our service works, as can be seen on the next slide, is that you come to our platform, you choose the countries you sell to, you answer a quick questionnaire about your products that you put on the market and the quantity of packaging and the type of packaging you put on that market. And then we will analyze the inputs and give you a roadmap, a guide on how to register there if you need to register. As said, the countries all have different regulations. To give you some examples, in Belgium, if you fall under 300 kilograms of packaging, you do not have to register. As soon as you fall, put more than 300 kilograms of packaging material on the Belgian market, you do have to register there. Or in some countries, you need to have a subsidy there. There's different components that determine whether you are obliged to register in those countries or not. And then some countries have put instances such as marketplaces in place to make sure that you are actually registered. But yeah, so you can choose your countries. It looks as the following. If we go to the next slide, it's just, you can choose all of these countries and get our so-called all of your package, or you can choose individual countries. But today it's about France, so that's why I highlighted France. So let's assume you have chosen France, then your dashboard will, as can be seen on the next slide, you'll have an overview of the map of a little bit of Europe, and then highlighted here is France. You have a little bit of your own dashboard here. We have a notification center if there are updates to regulations, which happen often. And on the top, you can see the different waste streams that we cater to: the packaging, the batteries and electronics, the textiles, the furnitures, and DIY and toys. And if you choose your country, in this case, France, you click on your country, the first thing or next thing you will have to do, as can be seen on the next slide, is put in, as mentioned, your quantities and the sales you have in France. In this case, we will ask about whether you have a quantity, a subsidy there, your estimated turnover, and how many product units you will sell in this country. And why this is important, I'll explain in a few slides down. But yeah, once you've put all of this in, you'll get your roadmap, which looks, as can be seen on the next slide. So you'll get information on where you have to register. We recommend the recycling company that we most trust there. And France is all non-profit, so we don't earn anything from that. We just really make sure that we find the one that is the easiest in communication. We always make sure that there's at least an English-speaking contact person that we can direct to. We make it as easy as possible for you with templates where you can just fill in your company name and some information. And yeah, give you a whole rundown on how to register there, what to keep in mind, the cost you can expect, all these things, and provide you with a checklist to make sure that you've checked all the points. So yeah, if we go to the next slide and look into what it is that you need to do in France in more detail. In France, as mentioned, every waste stream has its own so-called PRO, its own organization that is responsible for this waste stream. Some waste streams have multiple organizations that have established. I've written some of them down as examples here for packaging. There's Citeo Lecona Delft, for example, for electronics, Ecologique or Ecosystem, for batteries, you name it. You can read it on the screen. There's different companies taking care of it. those are the companies that they register with, the ones that actually take care that your waste is being taken care of at the end of life, your product is being taken care of at the end of life. And they then take your registration to the official organization ADEMA, who are the ones who will provide you with your unique identification number, the number that you have to provide marketplaces with to sell on them. And yeah, make sure, or are you proof that you are registered in France, that you're contributing to your recycling system. If we can go to the next slide. And this is the general process for packaging, because you are most definitely all affected by packaging. There's seldomly products sold without packaging with it. Anything you sell on the French market that's packaged, you need to register if it goes to the end consumer. So you start with the registration with your PRO. I'll go into detail on those points. You then get your UIN number, and then you need to report those quantities coming forward. So every year you need to state how much you expect to sell in France, and at the end of the year you actually report your sold quantities in retrospect. But for the registration, if we go to the next slide, there's a few things you need to state. You need to provide your company information. That includes your address, your VAT ID, if you're in a EU company, a contact person, company registration number, things like this. Your starting date of the contract will always be the first of the year, because in most of these countries, registrations are done by calendar year and reporting is also done by calendar year. So your starting date of the contract will be the 1st of January. Then you need, and this is unique for France, to forecast your customer sales units. Your customer sales unit is a unit of packaged product that a consumer can buy separately from others. So yeah, anything that you can purchase separately from another component is a customer sales unit that you need to state. And then lastly, you need to select the product code, and with that product code, it's just the product you sell the most. It doesn't matter too much, but you do have to select it. They give you a list. You need to make sure that you choose the one that's closest to whatever you sell. Then the UIN number, if we go to the next slide. Once you get that number, you need to display it obviously on marketplaces. If you sell through those, they'll ask for it. And then you also need to display it on your general terms of and conditions, your website, other contractual documents, wherever you have an official document that is related to your sales in France. Okay, and then lastly, you need to report your quantities. Another reporting of the quantities you do in your membership portal. If we can go to the next slide, please. In your membership portal, so these are always online registrations. You have a membership portal with access to it. If you are below 20,000 sales units in France, it's a very simple declaration at the end of the year. So it'll be around February, March of the following year. So if you register now in 2023, you'll be asked February, March 2024 to report your quantity sold in 2023. And you again just choose the same product category you did before and report how many sales units you've sold there. Now, if you sell between 20,000 and 500,000 sales units, it becomes a little bit more difficult. You have to differentiate between the type of packaging, whether it was product packaging, shipping, or service packaging. And then there's a detailed declaration as well if you sell more than 500,000 customer sales units, where you also have to put the individual weight of packaging in. But for all of this, if you ever need help, we're here, and also the systems are quite helpful as well. Now, the reporting is done annually and in retrospect, as said, and the fees associated with this, and I'm very, very sorry I didn't bring this in dollars, but you initially pay 150 euros per calendar year, assuming you will be below 20,000 customer sales units. And then at the end of the year, once you report your quantities, you will get back the difference between 150 euros and 80 euros. So you'll get 70 euros back if you're below those 20,000 sales units. It's just an incentive for you to actually do the reporting, because if you don't state your actual quantities, let's assume you only sell 1,000 customer sales units to France, but you've paid for 20,000, there's a bit of a difference in their waste management system. So that's just the reason behind it. Now, if we go to the next slide, or the one after it, it's just an introduction. here's a quick overview of our services. So despite our digital service, which you can purchase for all of Europe together or just for individual countries, we also have a premium service if you feel like it's a bit too overwhelming and you don't have the capacity to do it yourself, you don't want the responsibility, then you can always put that on us and we'll be happy to help you in a premium service. And then onto the next slide, as I've quickly mentioned, there are also labeling requirements in some of the EU countries, including France. You may have seen the Triman or heard of the Triman somewhere. If you need help with this, we're happy to help as well. We can check your labels for you. We can design them for you, whatever it is, really. Yeah, we're happy to help. And then, yeah, if we can go to the next slide. I've brought a little bit of a offer for you if you are interested in our services now. This is a €5 discount for you, a €15 discount for you on all of our products if you use this code. Yeah, if you are interested now, feel free to use it. And then, yeah, thank you very much for your attention. I hope it was helpful. If you have any questions, please pop them in the chat on the Q&A tool, and we'll be happy to get back to them.
Great, thank you so much. Thank you, Katarina. Thank you, Claudia. Yeah, and I'll just add as well that discount code, if you didn't write it down, no problem. We'll send that as well in our follow-up email with the recording with the slide deck. So yeah, we're on to the Q&A now. I'm gonna pull up, we have a few questions in here. So I'll pull them up and then you two can decide who wants to take what. But let's start with, we have 2 questions from the same person. So it's kind of a two-parter. I'll start off with, I sell and export jewelry. I don't see this category on your screen. I think they're referring from the beginning of the presentation. Does it mean that I'm exempt? And then also, I only sell a few pieces of jewelry a year to France. So do they have to worry about this? Yeah, that's the prompt.
So the thing is that it really is a business decision. There are costs associated with the registration of the packaging. The problem anyone will run into if they want to sell to France and do not want to register or avoid registration is that obviously they won't be able to sell through marketplaces. So you do have to provide the marketplaces with your registration number, your proof of registration. Other than that, there are fines associated with it, and it's also a bit of a business decision in the sense that there are some very competitive markets where competitors do like to report on each other. So yeah, consequences are your sales potential might be limited, and there is a small risk of getting fined.
Okay. Thank you. I'm gonna pull up another. I sell used items. Do I need to register?
Unless you sell used clothes, you do have to register the product if it falls under the category, but you in any case have to register the packaging. Yes.
And this one was on my mind too. What happens if I don't register?
So it kind of goes in hand with my previous answer. If you don't register, your potential to sell is limited. Marketplaces won't allow you to sell through them anymore. There's more and more countries picking up on this as well, so we can expect this to be implemented in Austria soon and Sweden also. And then again, it depends on your competitors and yeah, the responsibility you want to take and the risk you want to take.
Okay.
Yeah, and then specifically eBay's end, if you do not basically register, you don't provide any information in terms of the registration code on account level, basically what will happen is that after May 2023, eBay will simply start removing your items in France. And then, of course, if you do still ship to France without becoming compliant, as Katarina mentioned, you do have, unfortunately, the option sometimes to run into problems with fines. So we definitely recommend registering for it, especially that eBay has simplified this process now, and it is much easier to enter all the necessary information on the platform.
Cool. Okay, I'm gonna pull up, there's a question in the Q&A tool I'm gonna pull up. So what if your items are virtual? Do you need to register them?
if there's no waste associated, potential waste associated with it, and I'm not talking about any data laying around anywhere, taking up space on servers, then no, you do not have to register that.
Great. Do I need to register every product individually? I think this was answered.
The simple answer is no. However, let's say you're a textile company and you have different textile categories that you sell. You sell t-shirts, you sell jeans. They all have a different contribution fee associated with them, since some items are smaller, some are bigger, more difficult to recycle. So yeah, for some waste streams such as electronics, such as clothing, you do have to go in a bit more detail about your products that you sell, but it's still one number that you get. It's still one unique identification number that you get for your products.
Cool. Okay. This is, I think this one's an interesting one for you, Claudia. Why is Webinterpret requiring me to register?
Very good question. But also, Webinterpret has never required anybody to register it in any way. We are here to support you in any decision that you make, of course, but we do heavily support it because, of course, not selling into France because you chose not to register is also a big minus for our, philosophy of connecting you with international trade. And if we are able to, give you advice or host webinars such as this is exactly for your benefit, to show you that it might not be as difficult as you seem, but in no way whatsoever do we actually, force anybody to register. We simply just, promote it.
Okay. Cool. Okay, so I like this one. Is it worth the effort, and what are the benefits? Either if you want to take that.
So yeah, so I've already mentioned a little bit of this during my previous slides. So first of all, France as a open market will currently lose a lot of its trading partners, etc. A lot of probably smaller businesses will not want to register. So you're looking at less and less competition on the market. So I would say that's number one reason. It is, as you saw, the third biggest market in the European Union and sixth biggest market in the world. So it's a great opportunity to expand your business there. I would say those probably are the two main reasons for which I would say that it's quite important to register. And probably another one, once get through this process with Germany, get through this process with France, you're already gaining experience, as more countries are definitely going to follow through with something similar. So once you've already done it, within the European Union, at least, you will then be able to follow through with any further such laws being implemented anywhere else.
Cool. Okay, we have a couple more questions here. I think we can tackle them. Do I need to use the Webinterpret CSV uploader tool?
Yeah, so thankfully not anymore.
Yeah.
Not anymore, due to the fact that eBay has now changed the rules. You no longer need to put input like on every single item the code itself. Now it will be simplified. You will be entering at an account level. So no need to use our tool at this point anymore. You should just wait until eBay releases this new solution, and that will definitely make your life simpler. If you do still want to do it per item, and I've already started preparing this stuff and don't want any of your work to go to waste, you're more than welcome to still use it. I'm pretty sure it's still available on our dashboard, but at this point, it's not really necessary.
Okay. Okay, we have one, I think, Claudia, this would be for you. We have one question from a seller that is having some trouble with their international listings. It's not EPR related, but what would be for the seller, what would be the best way to contact you, I think, directly after the webinar?
You can contact our sales team, for example, if you have any issues, to sales_us@webinterpret.com. That's for our sales department. If, for example, you're a trial seller or are already in talks with any of our sales agents, we can help you out. If not, you can always contact us. We'll just create a ticket to our support team, or you can just directly contact our support team. I think it's support@webinterpret.zendesk.com.
Perfect. So I've popped the email address sales_us@webinterpret.com in the chat. If any of you have questions that you want to get directly in touch with our team, we can definitely help you. You can also reply directly to the follow-up email we'll be sending out, and you'll have our information there. Perfect. Okay. Yeah, we have the seller's information. Great. Okay. So we'd be happy to help you after. There's a follow-up question to the virtual items question from earlier on. So virtual items are not going to need to be registered, but how are they going to know not to remove their listings? Is the question.
I'm not all too well. Yeah. Do you want to take that, Claudia?
I can just say, keep in mind that this is not based on item, it is based on category. So any virtual item that falls into that category, most likely eBay will know right away that this category will not fall under any waste, as it is virtual items that are usually downloaded, not sent out physically to the customer. And Katarina, if you want to add anything onto this.
No, that was perfect. Yeah, just want to say that.
Cool. Okay, I'm gonna take, I think, one more question that we have left. So from someone, I make less than 100 in sales to France annually. My gross average sale to France is approximately $20 US. I would like to continue to sell to France, but what are the registration fees I would pay to become compliant?
That is incredibly unfortunate, and you're not alone with that. I talk to a lot of people who have the same issue, unfortunately. It's 80 euros, which is, I think, €1 is $1.10, or the other way around. So it's around the same. So it's 80 euros you can expect to have to pay. I don't know your business in detail. We often advise businesses to maybe, get together, sell together, have one account they may sell through and register that one account together. That does work. Maybe that could be an option for you, but other than that, it'll be hard to do it through marketplaces because you will have to provide your registration number, and that is associated with those costs, unfortunately. There are markets such as Belgium, for example, where, unless you exceed those 300 kilograms of packaging material, you do not have to register, but for France, unfortunately, it is the case that you do.
Cool. I think we've gotten to all of the questions. Yeah, there's nothing else right now. So if anything pops up later for you, please reply to the email we're going to send to you, and we can get back to the remainder of your questions. But yeah, I want to thank both Ecosystem, Webinterpret, Katerina and Claudia, respectively, for all their EPR knowledge. And we look forward to seeing you at our next Webinterpret Talks event. Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone, and hope to see you soon.
Bye, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.